you grow vegetables, or where should you site your garden? Well, one of the first things that you want to consider is sunlight. Across mid-Michigan, the sun is always going to stay a little bit in the southern part of the sky, even in the peak of summer, as you can see in this illustration. So for this reason, it's best to grow vegetables on the south side of tall plants or buildings. So in this illustration, again, you'd want to be putting your garden kind of to the left of that house, rather than in the shady north side. Another thing you could do when trying to look at the sunlight is of any given space is you could measure the sunlight hours by making a map. You could just kind of draw a simple map of whatever space you have to work with. And then you could record how many hours are in shade for any given space and how many hours have direct sunlight. Now, direct sunlight is just going to be like obvious, the sun is clearly shining on the space. And then you could kind of assign certain spaces to either being in part shade or full sun. And just to define those terms a little bit, you can see here that full sun is going to be a space that receives 6 or more, some people say 8 or more, total hours of direct sun per day. And most garden vegetables are going to grow best in full sun. Part shade is going to be less than that, kind of in the middle, like maybe 4 to 6 or 8 total hours of direct sun per day. There are some leafy vegetables that won't mind this so much, like lettuce. It doesn't mind staying a little bit cooler and being in some shade. But when you're dealing with fruity crops like tomatoes, they especially need full sun. So don't consider part shade for any vegetables like that. And then full shade is going to be anything less than 4 hours of direct sun per day. There's not too many garden vegetables, or hardly any, that can grow in full shade. Maybe hostas, but that's not a garden vegetable. Some other considerations for where to site your garden are going to be good soil and drainage. So on this slide, I'm going to talk a little bit going from right to left. So when you're looking at the soil, also consider that if there are any really large plants nearby, you might not want to put your garden and vegetables there because they're going to be competing with these really big roots. So consider that. Also, you want to avoid consistently wet areas. Don't put your garden, of course, right where there's a drain, making a big pool of water. Or if it's just a low-lying area, it can be really soupy often. You're not going to want that either. Also, avoid steep slopes. This isn't a big thing in mid-Michigan. We've got pretty flat land here, but we do have some hills. If the only space that you could work with was hilly, you could try to level out the space by creating effectively what are like little steps along that hill, also called terraces, to create a level planting spot. So that's one thing that you could do, but generally we've got plenty of flat land around here. But if you did have a slope to plant on and you made terraces or steps like that, you again want to be sure that that would be southern facing, not north facing, otherwise the sun wouldn't be able to get to it, kind of per our previous points. Also, you can see that little illustration where there's a shovel hitting some really hard soil. If your space feels like a driveway, then maybe that's not the best place to put a garden. You can maybe put some raised beds there, but I'd avoid trying to make that into a growing space. What you're looking for is a spot that is easy to dig into and is already growing really healthy green plants. That's a great measure. Just if it's got nice lush green grass or other plants growing, then that's probably a good spot to put your garden. And then lastly, consider about how easy it is to get to that space or how often you're going to be passing by it. There's an old saying that goes, the best fertilizer is the gardener's shadow, and that just means that you should try to make your garden so easy to get to that you're going to walk through it every single day. It's a really great practice to be in your garden every single day if you can be, because the more you have eyes on it and the more your shadow is cast on that garden, the better it's going to be. So with that, I think you've all got a better idea of where to put your garden.